Every part of the plan that ADPAC executes at the embryonic stages of this institution is part of a well planned out sequence. So today what we did at the Mayor's office was, number one, demonstrate the power of our community being able to align. You had members from so many groups across London align. That demonstrates that we're not about our tribe or any horizontal issues anymore. We're about vertical issues to protect our community. The safety of our children, education, health, economics, our socio-economic mobility, and our sovereign and inalienable rights. When we demonstrated in front of the Mayor's office, we knew a communication had been there, because I have demonstrated in front of the Mayor's office before. The security protocols are to send people out, but the Mayor knows that he was derelict of his duty, and his team know they were derelict of their duty. So they wanted to be very sensitive about our party. It enables me to understand the power that we have as a collective people. Now, we went as a small cabal representing 2 million London citizens whose children are at risk of being kidnapped. The Mayor was derelict in his duty. So the exercise was, one, to announce our presence to the Mayor, which will be followed up by a letter from the National Board on Tuesday after the bank holiday Monday. But the main purpose was to show visually to our family that we matter. We're not screaming that Black Lives Matter because we're not talking to anybody else. We need our family to know that we all matter. So when we demonstrated outside that building, it was for the conversations and communications to reach our entire community so that we spiritually and ideologically align. It's so important that we align and that we understand each other and know each other, and more importantly, trust and know that we can rely on each other. So when Respect gave a keynote, it was about the details of the kidnappings, speaking with the families, and also the patrols. I'm not qualified to speak on that. When Stephen Brown talked about holding our criminal underclass to account who've been kidnapping our children for county lines, I'm not qualified to speak on that. ADPAC is about coordinating grassroots experts, professionals, and advocates for our national activity towards singular ends. So what is the end game we want from the Mayor? We are demanding the creation of a position for an African Caribbean liaison officer who works specifically for and on behalf of the 2 million African Caribbean population. We want this liaison officer to shadow every single London Assembly briefing that the Mayor and the London Assembly are privy to for and on our behalf, so that we know exactly what is going on in London, so that no opportunities are missed, no potential resources are missed when we apply for the specificity of the African Caribbean population. Not the Black population, not the BAME population, but specifically the 2 million African Caribbean population in London. Why do we need to know? And why do we need to know that Black doesn't work? Because our resources are usurped by anybody who can self-elect to be Black, and we're not talking about Rachel Dolezal. There is no specificity in Black. So now the institutions that govern this country will be made aware of ADPAC and all of our national delivery partners through all of the organizations who represent African Caribbean interests, to understand the day of benign neglect, which is ignoring us and gaslighting us, is done. I saw 12 tribes unite behind a single issue. The voids between our community must be closed. The gaps between our community must be closed. The disagreements which stop us from being in the same room must be closed, because we are all powerful. I witnessed it today, and I'm not taking credit for that. I'm talking about the spiritual union of us as African Caribbean people standing in front of an institutional building where we were unbothered by anybody and blocking the entrance. Please share those videos. Please donate to Forever Family for ongoing street patrols. Please donate to ADPAC, as we've both been self-funded over this period. Our work is ongoing. Our work is for the love of our people, but more importantly, it's for the upliftment and to acquire specific ends. Now, the second ask is police reform, which is one of the biggest things that we are looking for, which has been systemic racism and how it's meted down on our community. So to put it in a nutshell, we have been contained by police. The police force has been a force for us. We are over-policed and underserved. There is no sensitivity. And what we are calling for in reform is that officers should statistically, ethnically represent the communities that they police, and also that serving police and incumbent police undergo sensitivity training, which is specifically about the historic and current institutional racism that African Caribbean specifically have been put under pressure to experience, under no fault of our own. And we're not talking about criminal classes. So those two demands to create a role for an African Caribbean liaison officer and their assistant at a cost of £110,000 a year to represent 2 million African Caribbean UK citizens, 70,000 for the liaison officer and 40 grand for their assistant to shadow every single meeting. We know we matter. Now it's time that the institutions know we matter. Good evening, family. I don't want to hold you long because we're all gearing up for the weekend, and we're gearing up for a long weekend. It's a bank holiday Monday. I did, however, want to give you a debrief on today because it is the first time I've really been out on the tuttles for a long time. And it was a beautiful thing to see, in that this is a topic which was a very vertical topic that united the entire community. I saw the entire 12 tribes come out today, who are us. When we understand the pulse of our people, we are in service of our people. And I saw it today. I realized just how immeasurably grateful we were for the services of Forever Family and the South London School Patrol. So I just want to shout out Sister Bex, who came from the South London School Patrol. Thank you for coming down today. It was appreciated. The solidarity and the desire to be involved in a London-wide initiative, but more importantly, with a schools to industry pipeline, a national initiative. I want to thank Raspek and Forever Family coming down today to share with us the intelligence that they gained from being operational on the ground. In number one, being to find out exactly who has been attempting to kidnap our children. They have actually spoken with a kidnapper and dealt with the process in their own way, as our patrol, who are unpaid, dedicated, and consistent. So to put what Forever Family do in context, Forever Family patrol areas where we are in high population, where there may have been instances of serious youth violence. They don't serve exclusively our children. They protect young people based on the respect that they have. Young people give up their knives. So by sharing values that we have with our young men, we start to close this intergenerational gap. ADPAC's role is to empower the organizations on the ground, those strategic delivery partners, those advocates who are thinking and working and operating at all levels, the professionals who have specific expertise in a particular area, like tech, that we'll get to at the end of the broadcast. But today, we managed to execute the first component of what hopefully ADPAC will be able to demonstrate from here on in for all of our organizations nationally. And it is this sequence of activity that must come together for a campaign to work in its totality effectively for and on our behalf. So what today's component was about was merely demonstrating to our entire family in London, but more importantly, nationally, that we have the inalienable right to gather. There were about 80 of us in front of the mayor's office who came from a number of organizational backgrounds, and I'll get into that as well. But more importantly, it was about showing the solidarity and the unity that we can come under one banner for one target, which was to hold the mayor accountable and the mayor in his role in coordinating the activities of the Metropolitan Police. So the videos that were recorded and the speeches that happened today are about placing that within the context of those sequence of events to win our hearts and minds and align us nationally under one banner for one cause. No dissent. We're all delivery partners. And like the saying goes, we all do our thing a little way different with a slight nuance. There is no competition in civic activity. You are all merely serving the same 3 million population. Now, if that 3 million population turned around and said, we want you to serve, there's no organization that has the capacity individually to serve the needs of the 3 million UK population, never mind the 2 million London population. So we have all the will in the world, but we don't have the resources and we don't have the structure yet, which I will also come to at the end of the broadcast. So we were blessed to have Stephen Brown from Stop Killing Our Children on the Street, who spoke very eloquently about county lines. Now, this very specifically is where we take responsibility for the monsters we have raised ourselves, who are enticing our children, seducing our children, sexually exploiting them, and also exploiting them to sell drugs on county lines. Now, this has been a litmus test for Eastern European gangs who, little beknownst to the vast majority of people, have been behind our criminal underclass, supplying them with drugs and supplying them with weapons, all the while watching and understanding that police haven't really cared when our children have gone missing. There's no Madeleine McCann scenario. There's no 11 million being spent on 11 of our children, never mind on one. 2, what has been the temperature of African Caribbean men as the most vulnerable and valuable assets of our community are susceptible to kidnap? It's been very little accountability, right? So what would you assess as an outsider looking inside our community, knowing you would kidnap any child, but why not go for the low-hanging fruit and the easiest with no comeback? Or that was the thought anyway, because without Forever Family being steadfast and consistently making noise about this, we wouldn't have this London-wide attention or the national attention that we're going to have in 30 seconds. Now, these people have been identified. There is an intelligence, which is their connectivity through their security protocols, which is a phone tree throughout London, which identifies people very quickly, and soldiers are everywhere. So we must understand as an African Caribbean people that we need all components of our community to work in coordination as a body complete. If we think about the heart, lungs, liver, spleen, brain, none of them work in isolation. You couldn't take out my heart and put it in a jar and it'd work, because it wouldn't. Without my brain, there's no cognizance of what is going on. So the brain becomes the cloud-based communication project management app that we are building now. The heart is the spirit of the people in the community, which we require, because there has to be an agreement that the community is going to be served by a particular institution at a national level. which is a very serious responsibility for people whom I call custodians. Make no mistake about who custodians are or what their role is. It is a very trusted position for men and women who cannot be bought, who have a more important loyalty and understanding of their communities. See, now as we start to formalize operations, we circumvent the conditions that create a Kemi Badenoch, a Tony Saul, a Sean Bailey, you name them, Trevor Phillips. They didn't start out that way. We lost them because we do not socially or economically reward our warrior class or those who serve our interests diligently, and it wears you down. This is why I salute the commitment of Forever Family, and I call on their fundraising. So please go to Instagram over the weekend on Forever Family's Instagram and donate. If you donate £2, if you donate £5, if you can donate £10, and God bless, you can donate £20. So these young men and women can travel, eat lunch, and get around the city that they are protecting. They are stopping murders by taking weapons away from children and acting off intelligence, which is very different to racial profiling. So please donate, because £1,002 make £2,000, which they haven't had operating for a week. Now, what are we capable of? They collected cash on the day from the people who turned up, and it was a beautiful thing to see, because our family is coming together in coordination, and we are all understanding our unique and valuable roles within this thing. None of us in service are competing. We are to coordinate our activity. From the Nation of Islam, we saw presence. From our brothers in the Rastafari community, brothers and sisters, from Forever Family, from organizations like Stop Our Children Being Killed on the Street, South London School Patrols. There are a number of us who understand we've been playing the wrong game with the wrong PIN number. And there's only one PIN number to access your cash on the other side of the ATM. You cannot have two PIN numbers. We are aware. So today was to win hearts and minds nationally, as all of those conversations from the mayor's office will circulate around our community. Why do we want you? Because we are writing a letter from the executive of ADPAC, which will arrive with the mayor and his team on Tuesday after the bank holiday Monday. What is the ask within that letter? Number one, it is to chastise the mayor, who is a public servant, make no mistake. Who was derelict of his duty for the 2 million African Caribbean population in London. There were multiple kidnap attempts specifically aimed at African Caribbean children. A couple of successful kidnap attempts. One who escaped and was spoken to in a debrief, who said the house he escaped from was filled with children and something weird was happening and he was drugged. Now he's 10 years old. My son is 14 and he's a baby. How old are your children? And think about them being in that vulnerable position where we don't know if they're being sold on for sexual exploitation, for organ harvesting, or whatever the case may be. They're supposed to be at home with us. Or the police are supposed to be the ones who are in a trusted position to act off intelligence. But what relationship does the African Caribbean community have by and large with the Metropolitan Police Force, who over-police traditionally the African Caribbean community and underserve us? So for us, it's a police force. It's not a police service. Our children are racially profiled. Even our grown men and women are racially profiled. We are treated in a wholly inappropriate way. as if we are a criminal ethnicity, and we are not. All communities have a minority criminal underbelly, including us. But we aren't policed in that way. We are policed to be contained. Well, herein lies the policy reform that we are looking for with the police when we actually sit down to have consultation. We do have a 10-page written recommendation for police reform, who was one of our consultants who served 30 years in the constabulary. He served on the National Black Police Association as president for 4 years. He currently happens to be a professor and criminologist teaching in university. He's extremely qualified to call the reforms. He is African Caribbean, and he makes public videos saying that the police as an institution are institutionally racist, and nobody is better qualified than an African Caribbean retired officer who served for 30 years. We are not asking Cressida Dick. We are not asking Tony Saul, and we are not asking the mayor, because the mayor is one who likes to flip-flop. He would like to do exactly what the Conservatives do, but he has to be on the other side of that report that Tony Saul has. So now we're going to play ball. And now we're going to hold him to account. So what we want is the permanent creation of an African Caribbean liaison officer role in the mayor's office to shadow every London Assembly briefing that happens. So from the police through education, local authority to planning, whatever it is, we want a liaison officer in the room. We would like to create a position that pays 70 grand a year with an assistant position that pays 40 grand a year, so that nobody is struggling and we can have our brightest and best and most qualified in that room to liaise specifically and for the 2 million African Caribbean population who vote and pay taxes and get no representation for either our taxation or our votes. It's quid pro quo time. £110,000 for that permanent position to inform us as the African Caribbean community in their role as liaison officer exactly what is developing, going on and happening at all times. Full transparency, right? So that we can't remain an underdeveloped community when we're in the know at the embryonic stage of planning. Secondly, it's a two-way system, is for us to report the needs and requirements of the 2 million population via the grassroots organizations, professionals, and community advocates that we liaise with, so that the mayor's office is aware and each of those departments understands exactly how they can serve best and most effectively our community. So we come back to policing. Policing is a very important component of this puzzle, because we as the African Caribbean community, since we've landed en masse from the Windrush generation, we've had very poor relationship as the African Caribbean population and communities, and the Metropolitan Police, who when we first came were overtly racist and would brutalize us, where even teenage young men who were innocent and plucked off the streets didn't make it home from police cells. It was a normal thing in the 70s, where even a friend of my father's family were told that he had an asthma attack and he has blood around his mouth. Now, in those times, who was doing the autopsies? We come to this stage and we find ourselves in a soft war where we don't have any say in how we're policed. Well, we want two things. One, we want the police to ethnically, proportionately represent the communities in which they police. Not specifically for us, but we are only concerned with gaining what our component is. We aren't distracted by other communities because we're at the bottom of every measurable metric. So our component is to get African Caribbean officers on the force within the communities they police. Secondly, we want key sensitivity training delivered to those who are operational and those who are incumbents to the force to understand the unique history of racism, which is institutional from the police, and insensitivities specifically aimed at our community for no other reason than our ethnicity. We are now involving ourselves in the political process at the highest echelons with an APPG, the African Caribbean Parliamentary Caucus, that is specifically established to deal with African Caribbean issues, whether we are domestic immigrants in the Caribbean or the so-called Commonwealth countries in Africa. It is time for us to step back from the race game, which has never worked for us other than for individual accolades. If you're an individual who is on the race circuit, you can gain every single accolade. You have no more power to bring us in the room or to represent us at an institutional level, but you would have every accolade that is there to give. It's no longer the hour for individuals. The call is for national representation at an institutional level to coordinate all of our activity in areas of a civic nature, entrepreneurial nature, and industry internationally to create trade missions. It is time. Not because anybody gives us permission, but because we grant ourselves permission with the understanding that all power is self-appointed. This is 21st century Garveyism. We don't harm any other community in self-organization, nor do we concern ourselves with any other community in our own specific community organization. We matter to us. If we don't matter to anyone else, we soon will, because we're going to start holding people accountable based on our organizational capacity, not based on rhetoric. That day is over. We are smart enough to align together at an organizational level. We are also smart enough to organize at a political level. Well, now, as we think of this as a jack of spades relationship that creates the glue, we rub shoulders with the royalty and go down the numbers all the way to 2, aligning all the way to make sure that everybody knows their respective role and that nobody's role should be questioned because it's highly valuable, irrespective of our understanding of that role. It's valuable that we serve the entire need of the African Caribbean population. So on Tuesday, when the mayor and his assistants are served with the letter from the national directors, we will follow that up with a full press blanket and all of our influencers targeting that office until we realize the position of London African Caribbean Liaison Officer, to be abreast of every part of activity within City Hall. We're no longer left out, not because we need to be invited in the room, because we're inviting ourselves and we're creating the role. How much is £110,000 divided by, let's say, 750,000 people, not taking the children into account in our 2 million population? We're not asking anymore, we're demanding. And with that, what we are asking for is our community to donate to Forever Family and ADPAC. We are self-funded organizations. And there is a reason that we fail to grow as robust as a lot of the English organizations from the dominant community in Britain who usurp our resources in our name, which doesn't trickle down to us, because we do it for the passion, we do it for the love, but we don't gain anything from that. And it means that we can't grow sustainable or robust. But when we are robust, we are aware of what we can accomplish as a collective. Now, with zero resources, we've managed to put together a team from 5
different parties for an APPG. We've managed to establish ADPAC as a CIC with a national leadership, with relationships that go across grassroots, professionals, and advocates. This is zero budget. We have the personnel qualified in technology, where we are building out a cloud-based project management app for all of these organizations to plug into. So that number one, we have communication security, but two, we have an effective engine that becomes the spine of ADPAC and connects all national organizations and professionals and contributors to our civic causes. We matter. ADPAC politically add value to the We Matter party, whose values we share to the letter and inform policy that improves our socioeconomic mobility. So in 2022, if we are able to field 80 to 100 candidates nationally for the local wards that have high African Caribbean populations, it's to win seats, to gain access to resources, to more fairly distribute those resources to African Caribbeans on the ground, as well as the wider dominant society. We are tired of being shut out, but there is a way to circumvent racism. And there is a way to have parity. It is to create your own, to get behind your own, to fund your own, to support vocally your own. I don't want to hear from a vocal minority who are lazy and unqualified saying it can't be done. If you look around them, not much can be done. I don't speak to people of this ilk. I do receive their communications thinking that it's in our way. It's not in our way. And we have no interest. If you go into a room where people are building satellites that will be half a mile in the sky, that can see you, record you, and hear you, and you say it can't be done, they'll close the door and tell you you're unqualified. Same here. We don't have lay people in professional roles. So if you see a role which is economic director, it's because that person is an economic professional. If you see a role that says education director, it's because that person is a professor who is also working with those who are building our educational curriculums. Now, we have several in a box, and it's always about most effective practice for us. These are the levels that we're talking about. And it's unfortunate that culturally we are not particularly used to having these conversations because they sound fascinating and they sound unrealistic to lay people. So you may be an engineer working on projects where you've created a component that somebody else owns the patent to. Who are you and what does your opinion matter in a pub where people are talking about football on a Saturday? But we know you exist. So we embrace you and we recruit you. And that goes across the board for all of our organizational capacity. This is why I love LinkedIn. Please do a Google search. ADPAC volunteer. You will see a form and please fill it out and join us at the embryonic stages in volunteering. Our purpose is to build out this institution until we can go into a room to represent us at a national level to control resources for and on our behalf that have been usurped by people who are politically black, where there is very little for the people that they know are black when it comes to criminalizing us, but become very confused about who is black when it comes time to deploy the economic portion that should be for African Caribbean people. So we don't get involved in the race game. We are African Caribbeans, we are African diasporans, we're via our boat stop the Caribbean came from, but these are horizontal issues. Sexuality, religion, your nationality of your parents is all horizontal. Vertical issues are ADPAC issues. Education, socioeconomic mobility, safety, security, intangibles. Ideologies change, and we embrace everyone, specifically because they are African Caribbean. We also welcome delivery partners who are friends of ADPAC. No, we do not have non-African Caribbeans as members, but we do have a Friends of ADPAC arm. And I welcome conversations with all of our distant cousins, as I say. But we speak from a place of parity. And we speak from a place of empowering ourselves. Now, any delivery partners who desire to assist, we welcome it. And we want to give you all of your public accolades and optics. But we control our agenda. We control our policy. And we aren't for sale. The role of custodians is unique, and it's an incredible responsibility to hold. We cannot be for sale. Integrity has to be a key component of being a custodian. So from our strategic advisory committee to our trustees and national directors, only people who can't be bought fill these positions. And this is a culture that we are going to sow throughout the country, because it won't be necessary anymore. Where we've traditionally been divided because cookie crumbs are demonstrated as a carrot, it won't be necessary. Because when we go there as a collective to represent our interests, we are going for the whole bag in the room to fairly distribute amongst delivery partners for their specific expertise in the matrix of solutions to deliver specifically for African Caribbean people, which will enable us to do what more with the state? Lean on them or call on them for our portion of resources? Because where we have received racism and not effectively been served with services that we pay for with our taxation, we've become very complacent and used to it and say it's racism. Well, we're not playing the race game, which is why we are specific about our ethnicity. There's a way that you get a Bank of Cyprus on the high street. It's not by talking about race. There's a way that you get a Habib Bank on the high street. It's not by talking about race. It's being very clear about the landmass that represents your inalienable human rights, which is why ADPAC liaison with the ECO 6 region of the African Union, which was created specifically for and on our behalf. So the diaspora region that was created for the diaspora, where I could jump on a plane and represent my interests tomorrow based on the relationships that I have, is there for us on the continent. ADPAC is here for the continent in the UK, where anytime the old key holders of empire make problems for our homelands, we make good trouble here as delivery partners. Racism is a team sport, and so is circumventing the effects of racism. We are no longer in the race game, we're in the organizational game, specifically for and on behalf of our ethnicity. So we give a clear understanding of our values. I would just like to take this time to thank people who turned up, to my brother, Bobby Holder, who gave me the idea for today's rally. I take no credit for that. He phoned me on, I think it was either Sunday or Monday, and I put it into the world, knowing the reach that I have through ADPAC, and our family came out, as I said, across 12 tribes. And it was a beautiful thing to see, because I'm aware of what this actual unity and solidarity looks like on the ground. So I'd like to thank my brother Bobby Holder, whose idea it was. I'd like to thank my brother Aston from Black Fathers Group. I'd like to thank Stephen Brown for coming down and speaking about county lines. I'd like to thank Raspek and Forever Family. Please, please, please go to the Forever Family fundraiser Instagram page and donate via their PayPal. Also, contact them, inbox them if you are interested in becoming involved in the school patrols to protect our children. Now, people will have to go through the regular checks that you would go through working with minors, so be aware of that. But if you have that desire to do that part-time, as we build out the machine to monetize the roles and to create the bases in each of the boroughs where there'll be stronghold, please, please, please contact them. Also, go to the ADPAC website, adpac.net/donate, and please donate to our ongoing works that fund and create solution-orientated initiatives with delivery partners. So you can find the Schools to Industry initiative, which is a public health approach. What that is the interactivity of agencies to come around one particular family or child. So that goes from child psychologists through child parent intervention, mentors, African rites of passage, which like a bar mitzvah gives our children a unique cultural understanding and great citizenship by introducing them to members of our community who've done very well for themselves, but demonstrate great citizenship civically. Down to the supplementary schools, to those who will be assisting inside more traditional schools to keep our children outside of PRUs. So if you download the PDF, Schools to Industry Pipeline, as a delivery partner, if you work in youth engagement in any particular area, don't think there's any area that doesn't fit within that pipeline, download the PDF, but please, please, please sign up as a delivery partner for the Schools to Industry Pipeline. Please also sign up if you have any inclination to run as a councillor in your local ward next year. All council seats are up for election. We plan to make a heavy impact as the We Matter Party to fill seats across the country. We will support with a national high production value video campaign that involves you respectively in your particular wards. We will give you all the tools that you need as backup, having learned from having 2 candidates in the last election. Very powerful times. Do not underestimate what is being done on the ground. I want to thank Brother Mohammed of the BAID Fund, which is a crowd fund for us, like a partner to save. Please Google the BAID Fund and Brother Mohammed. There was such an invaluable element of today, which is the spiritual component, which cannot be underestimated. When you have 80 odd people come together, that spiritual resonance, people who've been in their homes, who are so glad to see each other, but just understand that we exist. We exist. The people who know we matter exist and come out and will come out again and will represent again. So I don't want to hold you too much more from your long weekend. Have a fantastic evening. Have a drink for me. And please get involved in the activity in whichever way you can. Not all roles are high intensity. Like a march, sometimes it's just a turn up. Other times, based on your expertise, you may donate an hour a month of your specific expertise. Please go to the ADPAC website, adpac.net. Get in where you fit in. You are uniquely aware as to how you can apply your skills to this national institution that represents our interest. Please donate to ADPAC, adpac.net/donate. And please, please, please donate to Forever Family. Thank you, family, for watching, for supporting, for coming out today. Please share the videos over the weekend so that we get a national understanding of our number, of our power, and our intention. Thank you. We matter.